Why are we so morose?
We. Speak for yourself. I'm the optimistic one.
There's an optimistic one? Anyway, I wasn't talking about us. I was talking about humanity in general.
You think humanity in general is morose?
Yes.
How so?
Okay, for example, have you ever noticed that there are no great love songs about people who fall in love and are just happy?
No.
Exactly. Every great love song is about lost love or unrequited love or...
No, I was saying no as in, no, I haven't noticed that.
It's true.
No, it's not.
Name me one great love song that isn't rooted in regret or longing or heartache.
My Girl.
Okay, fine, but name me another one.
At Last.
That's still only two. There aren't that many.
Signed, Sealed, Delivered, The Longest Time, Come Rain or Come Shine, Nothing Can Change This Love.
All right, that's very...
I can stay with Sam Cooke for a while if you want. You Send Me, You Were Made for Me, For Sentimental Reasons, Sugar Dumpling.
You've made your point.
Have I? Because I can give you some more Ray Charles too if you want. Hallelujah, I Love Her So, This Little Girl of Mine, I Got a Woman.
Very impressive.
The Luckiest.
That's not a Ray Charles song.
I didn't say they were all going to be Ray Charles songs from now on.
So, fine, bad example. There are, in fact, many great love songs that are not rooted in regret or longing or heartache. However, I still stand behind my original argument. We, as human beings, as a species, are more attracted to sadness and heartbreak than we are to happiness. We tell ourselves we love a happy ending, but the truth is, while I'm sure you could think of many exceptions, as a rule, our greatest, most celebrated, most treasured stories and works of art are the ones that depict tragedy and trauma and death. Michelangelo's Pieta, Romeo and Juliet, Ikiru.
Oh, I do love Ikiru.
I know. Sad as fuck, ain't it?
For sure.
So? Why?
Because the old man realizes he's wasted his life by devoting it to a dreary bureaucracy, and he only discovers true joy and purpose in his final...
Not why is Ikiru sad? I know why Ikiru is sad, for shit's sake. Why are we so attracted to sad things?
You know what it might be?
What?
Lingering psychic damage left over from evolving on a savage planet where for most of our existence as a species, as well as the existences of our ancestor species, the most common cause of death was being torn apart by another animal.
You think?
Yeah. It's like, where do instincts come from? You know? How does a bird know how to build a nest? How do ants know how to dig an ant colony? How do animals know how to evade predators? They're inherited behaviors.
But if our attraction to sadness is an inherited behavior, wouldn't that be an evolutionary disadvantage? How would it ever evolve in the first place?
Why do you assume it would be a disadvantage?
Because an attraction to sadness isn't that far removed from an attraction to the biggest and most unavoidable cause of sadness, which is death. How does it make evolutionary sense for us to have evolved an inherited behavior that compels us to become so closely entwined with death?
Because we're not just creatures of body and instinct, we're also creatures of mind. The attraction to sad things that you're talking about doesn't make us want to seek out our own deaths, unless the sad thing in question is like that movie Love Story. I know I'd rather die than watch that again.
God, yes. That movie plays like they accidentally hired Arthur Hiller to film the community theater production based on the actual movie. I longed for Jenny's death and for mine, whichever would end it the quickest.
Right, but it usually doesn't work like that. Usually, watching a sad movie or listening to a sad song or whatever has the opposite effect. It makes us value our lives even more. It's the same thing as when you go to a haunted house or watch a really scary movie. You experience fear in a safe, healthy way instead of a life or death situation. By feeling sadness through art and stories and music, we can contemplate death, be reminded of the reality of death, but in a way that allows us to move on once the experience is over, more determined than ever to embrace life and live it to the fullest.
That makes sense. But what about our attraction to sadness that comes from sources other than death? Even though death is the most common and inescapable cause of sadness, there are other causes that aren't directly related to death.
Like the end of a relationship. Why are we so attracted to breakup songs? Well, like you said, even if one isn't always directly caused by the other, sadness and death are very closely linked. Maybe sometimes our dumb monkey brains can't tell the difference. Maybe. Or it could be empathy. Like we're compelled by breakup songs because we feel compassion for the person in the song who is sad over a breakup. Or we feel sad already over a breakup of our own, and it resonates to hear someone else sing about feelings similar to ours. Right. It's like how on paper blues should be the most depressing genre of music there is, but it's not. If you're sad, listening to the blues can actually make you feel better. Which frees up that spot for the actual most depressing genre of music, MAGA rap. Does anybody like it? Even the people it's supposedly for? They might. They like a lot of really shitty stuff. Oh, good point. So, to recap, human beings are more attracted to sad things than to happy things because when we feel sadness over things we find in a story or a song or whatever, it allows us to be reminded of death without actually being threatened with our own death at that moment. And we love stories and songs about other sad things not directly related to death because it reminds us that we're not alone, that other people feel those same feelings, and that makes us feel closer to our fellow humans and makes us feel better. Yes, but as I think about it, I wonder if we haven't missed a big piece of the puzzle here. What piece? The fact that sometimes we are just morose, self-pitying bastards who want to wallow in our sorrow. Doesn't that bring us back to the original question of why, though? Yeah, we're morose, self-pitying, wallowing bastards, but how come? Unless you're saying that sometimes we just are, as an immutable fact of our existence, and there is no explanation. No, I'm not saying that. I think there is an explanation. What if excessive self-pity and wallowing in our misfortunes also carried an evolutionary advantage? How the hell would that work? I don't know. Who am I, Stephen Jay Gould? I'm pulling most of this evolution stuff out of my ass. Do I have a degree? Don't you have an English degree? That's the same as not having a degree at all. The point is, neither one of us is an expert on this subject, and sure, you're probably right that self-pity doesn't confer any evolutionary advantage, but what if it's like, I don't know, a byproduct? A byproduct of what? Of something that does confer an advantage, or used to at some point in our evolution. That's interesting. So kind of like the personality equivalent of a vestigial tail. Sort of. More like a trait that emerged from another more successful trait. The equivalent of a spin-off of a popular TV series that was shit on its own, but still got a decent run because of its proximity to the original. Like Saved by the Bell, the new class. Exactly like Saved by the Bell, the new class. I see what you're saying. Self-pity is rooted in self-interest, and self-interest is necessary to survival. Any organism, no matter how simple or complex, that doesn't act in its own self-interest won't survive long enough to produce offspring and perpetuate the species for another generation. We feel self-pity when we experience failure, which is the opposite of success. If we didn't feel a motivation to succeed, we'd be content with failure and we'd die as a species in brutally quick fashion. Like Saved by the Bell, the college years. It got a full season. True. And a TV movie for a finale, right? The one where they all go to Hawaii? Vegas. You sure it wasn't Hawaii? They also did a TV movie where they go to Hawaii, but that one aired during season 4 of the original show. The one that aired after the college years was canceled was the one where they all went to Vegas, where Zach and Kelly got married. That's right. I miss Saved by the Bell. Me too. Do we miss Saved by the Bell? Or are we sad because we're not as young as we were when Saved by the Bell was on? That's it.